Some massive dominoes are starting to fall around the NFL, which will make for a few very exciting days. Aaron Rodgers is making his decision, in theory. Russell Wilson is visiting multiple teams. Kupp wants a lot of money for his age, but he did actually get it. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. So let's talk about all that and more right after. Alright, it's been a very busy couple of days around the NFL, to say the least, so let's just get straight to it. First up, we finally have a quarterback signing with the Steelers. It's Mason Rudolph, the red zone reindeer. Sorry to disappoint, still waiting on other news, but he's back in Pittsburgh on a 2-year deal worth up to $8 million with $4.5 of that guaranteed. After Mason's rookie year, he's pretty much been a career backup aside from a few spot starts here and there. He went 1-4 in the 5 games he started for Tennessee last year, but that wasn't really the best situation in the world, so he returns home to the team that initially drafted him, most likely to be QB2 this season, with a couple of higher-profile free agent quarterbacks still making their rounds. I don't think a Russell Wilson return is out of the picture entirely, but he did visit with the Browns yesterday and has a visit scheduled with the Giants today. So if he signs with one of those teams, I imagine Pittsburgh would very much like to have Aaron Rodgers, who last time I checked was on a beach with a blanket wrapped around him, contemplating life and his next chapter. I wonder if that next chapter could be Minnesota, though. Surprisingly, Diana Rossini seems to think it's possible, and honestly, it is a much better situation than any other team. Talking about Giants, Pittsburgh, I like the Vikings a lot better from a coaching and roster standpoint. He could be a nice 1-year bridge quarterback as J.J. McCarthy gets another year in the system, but who knows at this point in time what will actually happen? Only Aaron Rodgers truly knows, and he might still not even have a clue. Anyway, as Pittsburgh tries to figure out their quarterback dilemma, they signed running back Kenneth Gainwell to a 1-year deal. So he's some solid depth behind Jalen Warren after losing Najee Harris to the Chargers. Speaking of the Chargers, real quick side note, they signed Mike Williams to a cheap-ish 1-year deal the other night, bringing him back into the fold, which I thought was pretty cool. But let's get back to the Steelers, because they hosted former 49ers fullback Kyle Juszczyk on a visit this week. He was released by San Francisco in an effort to free up some cap space, and now the 12-year vet is free to sign wherever he chooses. The Steelers weren't the only team to recently shore up their QB2 spot, though, as Mac Jones is heading to the Bay Area on a 2-year deal for $7 million, with $5 of that fully guaranteed. It's up to $11.5 million in max value, so there are some incentives baked in there. He'll add some decent depth to the QB room behind Brock Purdy, who we could see reach an agreement on a contract extension sometime sooner rather than later. The Chiefs then also, very surprisingly, added a quarterback 2 into their room. It's not surprising that they added a QB2. They needed one, but it's surprising that it was Gardner Minshew. Very entertaining, considering he was just the starter for the Las Vegas Raiders last season. He had an up-and-down year getting benched, came back in later when Aiden O'Connell got injured, but broke his collarbone and landed on IR for the rest of the year. So he went from one AFC West team to another. The Raiders have Geno Smith now, plus Aiden O'Connell as their backup. Meanwhile, KC needed a quarterback too, and it looks like they didn't want to bring Carson Wentz back, or Wentz is trying to land somewhere else where maybe he has a better chance of being QB1. Not sure. But they're also bringing back Kareem Hunt, and then they signed defensive tackle Jerry Tillery today as well. So the Chiefs have been busy. And then sticking with the AFC West here for a minute, let's get back to the Raiders, because the Raiders and Dolphins basically traded running backs in a way. Vegas signed former Dolphin Raheem Mostert to a 1-year, $2.1 million deal. Then shortly after that was announced, we found out the Dolphins were signing former Raider Alexander Mattison to a 1-year, $2 million deal. So 2 very similar contracts there. Mostert lost the starting job to Devon Achane last year and battled through some injuries, but the soon-to-be 33-year-old, time flies, good God, will be a solid depth piece for them. And many people around the league believe the Raiders could take Ashton Jeanty 6th overall, so we shall see what happens there. As for Alexander Mattison, he's coming off a pretty underwhelming year with the Raiders, averaging just 3.2 yards per carry, which was by far the lowest of his career. Some of that was definitely O-line problems, though, and then like Mostert, he's most likely a depth signing, and he may not even be the number 2 on the depth chart. Devon Achane is the clear leader in the backfield for Miami, and then there's Jalen Wright, who they drafted last year in the 4th round. Another running back that's on the move is former Packer A.J. Dillon. He's signing with the Philadelphia Eagles on a 1-year deal to replace the previously mentioned Kenneth Gainwell. Dillon was on IR all of last season with a pretty scary neck injury he suffered during a training camp practice. He's healthy now, though, so that's great, and now he and Saquon will form the greatest running back quads duo duo of all time. They don't skip leg day ever. The Eagles weren't done there either, as they signed former Chiefs pass rusher Joshua Uche, signing him to a $1.92 million one-year deal with 1.25 of that guaranteed. And what's hilarious about this contract is that he has 4 void years attached to the end of it, a very Howie Roseman type of move indeed. Philly has lost several key pieces so far this offseason, like Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, Darius Slay, Isaiah Rodgers, and they even traded away CJ Gardner-Johnson, but they might be planning on losing a couple more guys as well. Jordan Schultz claims a source told him the Eagles are open to trade talks involving Dallas Goedert and Bryce Huff. Dallas Goedert is entering the final year of his contract, and while the Eagles signed Bryce Huff to a big 3-year, $51 million deal last offseason, he had a really disappointing 2024 campaign and finished with just 2.5 sacks after coming off a 10-sack season with the Jets the year prior. Goedert would be a bigger loss in my opinion. He was 4 yards shy of 500 last year despite missing 7 games, and if he had gotten that, it would have been his 6th consecutive season of over 500 yards. He's been a reliable target when healthy, but he hasn't played a full season since his rookie year in 2018, and if they aren't planning on extending him after next year, they might as well try and recoup some sort of draft capital for the 30-year-old tight end. And then let's talk a little bit about this Myles Garrett press conference from today. He interviewed with the media after reaching a massive extension with Cleveland, which made him the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. That is until maybe Jamar Chase, more on him later, or maybe Micah Parsons get their deals done here sooner rather than later. We'll see. Honestly, who knows who is actually next? Anyway, before the extension took place, Myles publicly requested a trade earlier in the offseason, saying he wants to play for a contender and win a Super Bowl. The Browns were adamant they weren't going to trade him, though, and when Myles requested a face-to-face meeting with owner Jimmy Haslam, he declined and refused to even meet with them. And then, almost out of nowhere, a couple days later, the extension happened like magic. So that's why today it was kind of funny to hear him say this.
I think the fans will see that my heart's in the right place. It's never been about money. It's always been about winning, and that's where my frustration lies.
Yeah, well, that's certainly interesting. He requested a trade initially because he said he wants to win a ring, which I get, but let's be honest, a ring is probably not going to happen in Cleveland. My theory is when he realized there was nothing he could do to get the team to trade him, he was stuck there. Why the heck not take as much money from that organization as humanly possible? I would do it. I would do it in a heartbeat. Calm down, Cole. Next up, we got to get to this pretty crazy situation involving people who also need to calm down, and Micah Parsons and his former teammate DeMarcus Lawrence. So Lawrence was a pillar on that Cowboys defense for years. He had been with them for his entire 11-year career up to this point and actually ended up leaving in free agency to sign with the Seahawks on a 3-year deal. But clearly there are some hard feelings there in some capacity because check out what he had to say in his interview.
You know, Dallas is my home. I made my home there. You know, my family lives there. You know, I'm forever going to be there. But, you know, I know for sure I'm not going to win a Super Bowl there, so.
Yeah, safe to say there might be a little bit of built-up resentment there, and this caught the attention of Micah Parsons, who has a podcast and is obsessed with tweeting and saying crazy things, and he shot back on X saying, "This is what rejection and envy looks like. This is some clown." Well, shortly after that, DeMarcus Lawrence actually fired back saying, "Calling me a clown won't change the truth. Maybe if you spent less time tweeting and more time winning, I wouldn't have left." I mean, that was pretty savage, but is he really going to win in Seattle with Sam Darnold at the helm and no DK Metcalf? I'm not sure if there's a better chance there than in Dallas. Let's be honest here. But this exchange overall, it just is sad to me, and it goes to show you that things behind closed doors in Dallas may not be so great. Clarence Hill Jr. has been writing for the Cowboys since 1997, and after all this went down on X, he literally said, "There's always drama in Dallas. What is spilling over on social media was always bubbling underneath the surface in the locker room." All this went viral, of course, and a couple teammates even chimed in, or former teammates, depending on which player you're looking at, but Trayvon Diggs said, "Wow." One word, wow. And then linebacker Chauncey Golston then said, "I thought it was brotherhood over everything." Well, sorry to disappoint you, but it's actually money over everything. But speaking of money and the Cowboys, that actually brings us to the Cooper Kupp situation. Kupp was officially released by the Rams this week, and he's one of the most sought-after free agent wide receivers right now, with a bunch of teams reportedly interested. Well, the Cowboys were, I guess, one of several teams whose name has been thrown out as a potential landing spot, with Adam Schefter saying early this morning the Cowboys are a sleeper team that's emerged and is making a push to sign Kupp. But then a couple hours later, He switched up a bit, saying they aren't actually considered the likely landing spot for him after all. What's funny is, after all the Dallas and Seattle drama I just discussed, the Seahawks have reportedly been firmly in the mix for Kupp also, trying to sell him on a vision for his next NFL chapter, whatever that means. Apparently, the Broncos and Saints are also in the mix on trying to land the veteran wideout. I actually like Denver, considering they could use the help. They just signed a tight end for a couple of years in Evan Ingram. They got Bo Nix on a rookie deal. Cortland Sutton is a dog, along with a great head coach in Sean Payton. Kupp, though, reportedly wants to be on the West Coast. I don't think it's a deal breaker, but it is worth noting that. I think money is probably the most important thing here. Let's make that 100% clear. He's wanting 12 or more million per year. That's about in line with his market value on SpotTrack, but which team offers him the most, and how much will it be at the end of the day? That's the question. Well, money does talk after all, and Cooper Kupp gets his wish, remaining on the West Coast, as he is signing a 3-year deal. It's been decided. 3-year deal, $45 million with the Seattle Seahawks. Right before I was about to export this video, the update came out. He made his decision. He was sold on their vision after all, guys. Don't mind it. The new head coach over there, McDonald, is turning over a new leaf. You got Jackson Smith and Jigba. You got Sam Darnold. There it is. This is the decision. 3 years, $45 million. Holy freaking smokes, dude. That is a lot of money. He exceeded expectations, and he's going to be happy. I'm sure there's an out after a couple of years in that contract. There's no way that there's that much guaranteed. But either way, 3 years, $45 million deal. It's a big deal. Cooper Kupp himself said, "Washington back across my chest. Let's go." So he's coming home. The only thing for me that makes me a little bit hesitant for the Seahawks on how much money was actually paid is the fact that Cooper Kupp is just not the same player that he used to be. Warren Sharp shared this yesterday. This is not good. Cooper Kupp's rank and ability to get open went from 15th in 2021, 71st in 2022, 102nd in 2023, 141st out of 159 in 2024. So he is definitely on the decline. I think the Rams made the correct decision, because when you compare that to Davante Adams, 6th, 9th, 17th, 15th, he has not yet fallen off. So the Rams get Davante Adams. The Seahawks, they still get a good get in Cooper Kupp. Don't get me wrong, but he is not who he once was. And for that price, that is steep, in my opinion. Make sure to let me know your thoughts on that signing in the comments down below. Was that overpay? Do you like it? Love it? Hate it? Let me know either way. And before I get out of here, the last thing we need to talk about, the Bengals have made significant progress on massive contract extensions with star wide receivers Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and both could be finalized in the coming days. Sources tell Ian and Tom Pelissero there is work to be done, but Joe Burrow's wish is close to coming true. These guys have the same agent, and seems like they're getting close on a deal. It's going to be around $28 million or so for T. Higgins, who is currently on the franchise tag. Jamar Chase, meanwhile, is on the club option, the 5th-year option of his rookie deal, so they don't have to necessarily extend him this year, but they are definitely going to do it, and he's going to get a lot of money, around $40 to $41 million APY. Massive dominoes are starting to fall around the NFL. Cooper Kupp was the first. Where is Aaron Rodgers going? Where is Russell Wilson going? What's going to happen with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins? Hopefully we find out over the weekend and we can report on it all on Monday. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below on all the craziness that's going on. And with that, I'll see y'all next time.